Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Tuesday, June 14th council session for the Township of Mapleton. Council has already started with a closed session. We're just starting back into the regular agenda. And we're going to start by having O Canada. So please rise if you can, if you're able. Thank you, everyone. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. The very first thing we have up today is the Senior of the Year Award. Going to Rolly, there she is. Had a nice chat with her out in the lobby there. Helen, did you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, Your Honor, through you. Yes, so this is June is Seniors Month in Ontario. And of course, as you know, as far as I'm concerned, every month of the year should be Seniors Month. And this year's theme is to stay active, connected, and safe. And each year, council makes a decision on what senior should be recognized as Senior of the Year in Mapleton. And this year, the decision was made to nominate Rolly Caterberg for that role. Rolly, in my experience with being in contact with her, Rolly is a very quiet, person who goes out of her way to do a lot of things for a lot of people in this community without any fanfare. She's also a caregiver, a mother of 5, and she told me that she has lived in the area for 56 years. But it was Maryborough at the time, she told me. So when she first came here, but she's a proud resident of Mapleton, and as many seniors is a caregiver to her husband and also takes care of this community. She worked in the grocery store in town for many, many years and could always be counted on to deliver the groceries to people who were unable to pick them up themselves. And if you still would believe it, that Rolly is still in that role today. So I think seniors for Seniors Month, Rolly Caterberg makes an outstanding Senior of the Year in Mapleton 2022. And I think the mayor has some flowers for you, Rolly, that he would like to present along with your certificate.
Well, when you come and read the worldwide flags here, what we I did have a nice chat with Rolly outside before coming in here, and you know, Rolly, you definitely deserve an award like this. The things you've done in this community for over the many years, and what you said to me is, I don't feel like I deserve anything, but yes, you do. And you know, people have recognized it. Council has recognized it, and we're very honored to be able to give you Senior of the Year award here in the Township of Mapleton. Please help me congratulate Rolly.
Thank you.
Do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I do, but I have a piece of paper with me.
All right, so we'll let you go. Helen will give you the mic over there.
I should know this by heart, but I probably get nervous, so. Mr. Mayor, I don't know, you're honorable, I don't know how to address you, but anyway. Greg. Councilors, Seniors for Excellence, and fellow taxpayers. I'm honored and humbled by being nominated as Senior Citizen of the Year for Mapleton Township. When Helen called me, my first reaction was, why? Right, Helen?
Right.
What did I do to deserve this? I still don't know why. Whoever nominated me must see more than I do. To me, it's a God-given talent, what I'm using. It comes natural. But I want to thank whoever nominated me for honoring me. I will accept it graciously and hope to keep on doing what I have always done. Thanks again. And also on a other note, I also had lots of encouraging messages on Facebook. I hope it does not make my head swell, but anyways, thanks again. Appreciate it.
I don't think we have to worry about your head swelling. That's true. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your honor with us. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. We'll move on to confirmation of the minutes. Resolution 4.1 moved by Councilor Otten, second by Councilor Douglas, that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on May 24th, 2022 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda package. Any questions, comments? All in favor? It's carried. Anyone have any matters arising from the minutes? Item 6, matters under the Planning Act. We got item 6.1. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. We're going to switch things up a little bit. My apologies. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Clerk. We're going to go right into the delegations portion first before we get into the Planning Act. Just that we can release our delegations then. So delegations and matters arising, item number 7, we'll move into 7.1, which is the Minto Mapleton Health Professional Recruitment Committee. And we have Dr. Christine Peterkin and Allison Armstrong here with us. Please welcome. Because we are, yeah, you're going to stay at the podium because we are videotaping this and we want to make sure that everyone can hear you. So please just push the button on the microphone.
Hello.
My name's Allison Armstrong. So I work for Wellington Healthcare Alliance. So Palmerston is one of my hospitals. I've been with the Alliance for about 14 years. So when I initially started, I was in physician recruitment and then I shifted over to communications, but we're in a bit of a healthcare recruitment crisis right now. So I've been shifted back to help our hospitals right now, and we definitely need help. The past 2 years with COVID has been very difficult on our hospitals, as you can imagine, and our staff. And unfortunately, some people have decided to retire, which is good for them. And same with some of our physicians, or decided to move around, sort of rethink the way they're doing things. And for our rural hospitals, we operate very differently than our urban counterparts. So our family physicians, such as Christine, are not only your family physician in your community, but they also work our hospital. So they are the emerge doc, the OB doc, your inpatient doctor. They look after long-term care homes. They do so much more than just their clinic work. So it's important for people to realize that. So when we're recruiting to our rural areas, we're really recruiting for specialized positions. Right now, there is a global healthcare shortage. It's not just related to Minto Mapleton or even the province, it's across Canada and across the world right now. So we have lots of challenges ahead of us, but we're feeling confident we will get there. It's just going to take more than what we've done in the past to get there. So not only are we recruiting for physicians, we're also looking for nurses and lab techs and diagnostic imaging techs. Right now, some of the strategy we've worked on is, and I've sent you a report, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look it over, is to really come up with a different social media recruitment campaign, which I think we've done. So talking about our differences from our urban counterparts, we are deliberately different for good reason. So we choose to practice rural medicine because of all the wonderful things, wearing the many hats. We also, because of our location, we're eligible for government grants, which helps our new grads pay off student loans. We have free parking, which is very unheard of these days at hospitals, free coffee and tea, like I could go on and on. So anyways, we've created this fun marketing campaign, which we've had a lot of positive feedback from. However, it's going to take more than that. So Christine has been working hard in terms of bringing medical trainees in to our system. So when we have a medical trainee come and they're in their last 2 years of training, we introduce them to rural healthcare and hope we can kind of hold on to them. The problem is, again, there's less grads for the positions that are available right now. And when you join rural medicine, you're taking on a lot. And Christine could maybe speak to it. For many of our trainees over the past 2 years with COVID, it hasn't been the same type of training where they have that confidence level when they come on to take on the many roles. So that's a bit of a challenge for us as well. So moving forward, working with the municipality, having our grant that's given to us to put towards all of these things that we're trying to do makes a huge difference. And Christine will talk about it, though. We're going to have to do more than that in terms of our partnerships and what we can offer people when we're trying to attract them to come to our communities. It's not just a physician we're looking at, it's an entire family. So we're trying to find jobs sometimes for spouses, it's healthcare, it's education, it's all the things people are looking at when they come to a community, and working with the municipality on that and our partners makes a huge difference. So I can't thank you enough for your support and for caring. And then I'm going to just turn it over to Christine and then answer any questions after. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. So I'm sure most of you know who I am, Chris Peterkin. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak to the collective tonight. Allison really summarized the gist of what our struggle has been the last couple of years, especially with COVID. And I echo what she says in terms of recruitment. It's never been more of a priority as it is right now, especially for rural Wellington. And the problem is, as Allison intimated, everyone else is in the same boat. So we're competing with communities, urban communities, who are looking for the same bodies. The day of being a Jack and Jill of all trades is unfortunately a thing of the past, and many young physicians are looking for a well-paced career where they can balance their home life, be well compensated for their time, and feel supported by their peers. I feel really and truly at this point we need to pivot how we approach recruitment. We need to capitalize on what we do well, which is provide a welcoming environment where you can meet someone for the first time and feel like they're an old friend. we need to showcase supportive communities through things like opportunities where the municipalities can give breaks to new folks coming in. One thing that I had a discussion with Manny not too long ago about the opportunity for our townships to provide, special breaks for housing or for taxes or things like that. Like, I'm not sure how many other communities are doing this, but I think that it would definitely set us apart in terms of being able to offer something that will potentially attract somebody who hadn't considered us before and maybe is thinking about, the crazy housing market right now and, the price of everything being quadruple what it used to be. And so we have to start thinking, like Allison said, outside of the box. What can we bring to the table that will entice people to come to us? Once they're here, we're golden because we're awesome, right? So I think that that's the key, is getting them through the door. So we're doing our best in terms of getting medical residents and medical students to come out and actually, showcase the area. But the next step in terms of when they start asking the questions, so tell me about, housing here. Tell me about what can happen for my spouse who's in, computer engineering or in whatever trade, I think the beautiful thing about this area and what's always been just so fascinating to me coming from Montreal is the fact that everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to help, and everybody knows somebody else who wants to help as well. And so there's this connectivity that is just like unparalleled, really and truly. And that's why, the country life is the best life. So just to kind of round out my time here, I just want to also comment on retention, because we have had some physicians leave our communities, and I'll be frank with you, some of it has to do with feeling that they belonged. Some of it had to do with feeling that there weren't enough opportunities for themselves, for their family, or their children. And so this is bigger than just medicine. Like, this is, like Allison said, this is going into our education system, going into, our, like the way we support our neighborhoods, what we do for recreation, how we address, different cultures, how we show that sense of inclusivity, anyways, I can go on, but I won't. So really and truly, like, what are we doing to ensure that the diehards who are already here stay, right? So that's another piece that just needs to be considered. So just to top out, we are very thankful for the ongoing support of the township and hope that we can collaborate and brainstorm some great opportunities to think outside of the box and stand out from competing communities as the place to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you both to Christine and Allison for the presentation. Questions to the delegation from council members? Councilor Ottens?
I'm really impressed by these ads that have been included here. Very clever. Where are these being seen? Where are you putting them?
So the hope was that anybody that we share this with can also share it. So we're also trying to come up with new and fresh ideas on a fairly regular basis, so we're not using the same ones over and over. So we've got some more ideas that we're going to be doing. The cost to do this was zero for us, other than our models. And we just took the photos ourselves and came up with the slogan. So it was a cost-effective way of getting the message out. You're welcome.
Councilor Craven?
I just want to thank you all for what you do, because if we have to drive an hour or an hour and a half to see a doctor every time we want to see one, it's real pain, and a lot of people probably wouldn't bother going then. They'd stay at home and not be healthy. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Councilor Craven. Other questions or comments? Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure who to direct it to, maybe both of you. So you were talking about the Jack and Jill of all trades. Not gonna guess your age, but I'm gonna say from our demographic, it's something that we love doing. It's kind of a 60-hour week is a good week and there's lots of time off in that, right? But I know in my profession, we put a posting out for 60, we're thrilled at 28, right, to walk away with at the end of the day. So for new recruits, for people who may be more interested in maybe just doing clinic work or maybe not doing the emerge or the OB or the long-term care stuff, how do you MacGyver a system where you still get your needs met, but the work-life balance of the new demographic of recruits works too?
That's an excellent question. And it's something that really and truly our main group of physicians in North Wellington have been having some really in-depth discussions about, because, it's a situation where we have, the younger docs, and then we have, the old school docs, and tradition is tradition. So the tradition in rural medicine has always been, you just do everything, right? You come here to do everything. But we're realizing more and more that it's not sustainable. And so we're trying to figure out how to best marry the benefits of rural medicine. So being able to do all these different things. So if you like long-term care, sure, do a bit of this. If you like obstetrics, do a bit of this. But if you just like clinic, sure, do a bit of clinic. But the expectation is still going to be that, we're going to try to massage you into doing something else, like one other thing. And so that's the place where we've been, trying to be creative in terms of how we present ourselves. So not to scare people at the door, but to be able to figure out how to say, at the end of the day, this is still rural medicine. Like even like out of necessity, you're not going to just be doing clinic. In your clinic, you might have somebody who walks in who's now having an MI, right? Or who's having a heart attack, right? So, and now you have to decide, okay, what do I do with the situation? And so looking to your peers, you're going to be able to have the supports that you need to be able to get through that moment. And I think that's the culture that we're trying to create and trying to really emphasize to our grads who are coming through, that, when they spend time with me, they see how nice it is that, if I'm stuck on something, it's like I just boop, 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 phone a friend. And there's always a friend. There's always at least one person who can help. And I think that's the key. So if somebody wants to answer your question, if somebody wants to just do clinic, we're getting to the point now where, like, out of necessity, because we have so many orphan patients, that we're going to have to start steering away from saying, no, you have to do something else. But at the same time, we're still keeping that door open to kind of have those conversations, and by modeling behavior, by, letting them have the opportunity to kind of, be mentored, to do like ride-alongs, if you want to say, to have an opportunity to see what we're doing, whether it be clinic and long-term care or clinic and ER, clinic and obstetrics, giving them a taste so that it's not as much of a mystery and of a daunting task, right? And like Allison said, because this cohort that we're dealing with right now did all of their residency in COVID. So they do not have the same amount of experience as, the folks who came before them. And so we're very, very understanding of that. And I think that that's going to certainly color the way we approach the recruits that we get, if that makes sense, right? We'll have a lot more grace in terms of what their needs are. So I don't know if that answers your question, but okay.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And just brings up a lot of thoughts in my head. I know that you as physicians are, when Councillor Martin talks about work-life balance, kind of having a difficulty doing work-life balance right now because you're short. And you're helping to cover a position in Palmerston where someone retired. And that doesn't make it easy for you. And of course, attracting people. Now, I know you're working with McMaster University, and I know you're arms go out further past McMaster University. So you just want to touch a little bit on attracting some of these international doctors that might be coming here. We have an outreach for that? Because I know that's going to be something we really need to work on.
Yeah, so we work closely with Health Force Ontario. So it's a government agency that helps support recruitment efforts. So we call them IMGs, International Medical Graduates. We are looking at those options as well. We're happy to take IMGs. There's a little more work to it when they come to us, in that we have to have a physician supervise that individual. So sometimes, even though you're bringing someone in, it's extra work for the physician who's already overworked. But again, it would be worthwhile. So we're looking at every opportunity. We even talked about going to other provinces, marketing in other provinces. Some of the barriers we've had over the past couple of years, where we were able to go out to the schools and actually speak to the students before, we haven't been able to do it. It's virtual and it just doesn't work the same way. So we really need to get back out and talk to the students, get to career fairs, which we're hoping we'll be able to do come September with the new group. The Alliance relationship works well too, because we have over 100 medical learners in our system across all 3 of our rural sites. So as soon as we get those email addresses and contacts, we're just in touch with all of them right now over the past few years. So from, when they started as a medical student to now they're graduating, we have a huge contact list that we keep putting feelers out for. The physicians themselves have been wonderful. They talk to people. Do you know anybody? Can you help us out? And that has helped a little bit. But the other thing I'd like to say too is, our healthcare staff, I don't know what it is, and I think it goes across all service industries lately, is that people can be mean and they're not being very supportive to one another. And our healthcare staff have bared the brunt of that lately. And I'm just begging, people to be kind because we need to keep our healthcare staff. So it's difficult when you're already stressed, you're overworked, you worked a 24-hour shift and you've got somebody in being mean or rude. That doesn't help anybody. So we just need everybody to be calm, supportive of one another, and we will get there. I truly believe it. So.
Well said. And as you know, we've said it before, if we can be of any assistance, if you need, Manny and I to come to some conference with you to grovel to get these people, we'll come anywhere. And anyway, doesn't matter what province or anything, we go anywhere, right?
I'm not about begging.
There you go. So if we need to go out to help you recruit people, we will come with you to do that. Okay. So don't hesitate to ask. Other questions or comments? All right. So I'm just going to read the resolution here. The resolution is that the Township of Mapleton Council received the delegation of Christine Peterkin and Allison Armstrong and approved the annual funding request of $10,000. It's not in your agenda. We just have it right now. Just read it out. So again, I'll just read it. The Township of Mapleton Council received the delegation of Christine Peterkin and Allison Armstrong and approved the annual funding request of $10,000. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Douglas. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? That's carried. And ladies, we will have that money to you. We want to do a check presentation probably outside of the clinic at some point in the future, and Ali will set that up for us. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Council, we're going to bounce around a little bit. 7.2 and 7.3 are not here at the moment, so we'll go back to 6.1. But first, before I do that, we do have someone in the room that Council has not met before. And Heidi, would you please stand up? Heidi Dorst has been hired as the executive assistant, as Council gave direction to Mr. Barron to make sure he hired an executive assistant. And Heidi has been chosen as that person, and she started just the other day. Heidi, anything you want to say? All right. Thank you, Heidi. We're welcome to the team, and we're glad to have you here. So item 6.1, Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act. Linda. No, oh, sorry,
That would be
Michelle.
Michelle.
My apologies, Michelle.
No.
This is all yours.
No, thank you. So through you, Mayor.
The report before you tonight is meant for mostly information purposes only because not everything is completely set in stone yet, but we're going to come forward with the decisions that absolutely must be made this evening. And the recommendation is that you receive the report for information and that you pass a bylaw to identify the planning and development manager as the approval authority for site plan applications effective tomorrow, actually June 15th, 2022, because this is our last council opportunity. And effectively at the end of this month, council will no longer have the ability or the authority to make decisions. Hence the necessity. So on Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022 was introduced on March 30th and received royal assent on April 14th, 2022. So in effect, almost everything that's in there is in effect as it is now, but some of the things will not come into effect until the new year to give us time to plan accordingly. These changes are extensive, but the planning application process to expedite approvals, increase transparency, and to incent timely decisions. So part of this is being done through the increasing of the powers for the minister, for us to publicly start posting our applications, as well as listing their status and revising the timelines for decisions to be made and a staged refund application fees. We are already under review for our site plan and zoning amendment applications, and we've reached out to our neighboring municipalities in the north to try and come together to create a unified process as we move forward for the new year. One of the issues that of course is now not under our control beyond tonight is the fact that council will be losing their authority to approve site plan conditions. What's not necessarily mentioned, but it's not to say that council will not have the opportunity to be updated, because it'll be incredibly important if we were to have a large company come forward. Of course, you would want to be able to celebrate that and know what's going on. It's just that staff will have the delegated authority to continue and follow through on the processes and procedures that you've already approved and set in place. So from a process perspective on our end in planning, nothing will change. Outside of that, I don't have anything further that's not already in the report. You also have a technical review that was provided to us, which gives extensive details as well as our question and answer.
Okay, thank you. I do have the resolution here. I might need to make a change on dates, and please bear with me on this. And if there is a change on date, please tell me. That the planning report, this is moved by Councillor Douglas, it's moved, second by Councillor Ottens, that the planning report entitled Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act, dated June 15th, June 14th, be received for information. And that council consider the attached draft bylaw, which identifies a planning and development manager as the approval authority for site plan applications effective June 15th, is what you said? Or-
Yes, through you, your worship. The date is effectively tomorrow, because between tonight and June 1st, there's no ability or opportunity to bring forward any of the site plan for approval. So essentially this gives us the authority to just go ahead and move forward with that should one become.
Okay, so we'll change that effective date to June 15th, 2022 instead of July 1st, 2022. I'll need Councillor Douglas and Councillor Ottens to agree to that as you moved and seconded it. So it's going to read that the planning report entitled Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act, dated June 14, 2022, be received for information, and that council consider the attached draft bylaw, which identifies the planning and development manager as the approval authority for site plan applications effective June 15th, 2022, which is tomorrow. Are you okay with the change? All right. Any questions then for Michelle? Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick process question for you with some of these timelines and site plan approvals. So the clock starts ticking once an application is deemed complete. But what if, for instance, a stormwater management report comes in, there's a report there, but it's not acceptable, and it starts a lot of back and forth with Burnside or whoever's making the review? Like, how does that play into the timing? Like, even though you have a complete application, it's not necessarily acceptable. How does that play in?
So that is why this section does not come into effect until the new year. And that's the part that the rest of our neighboring municipalities are getting together to talk about. So we're hoping we will be unified in the way that we're going to answer that, and why it says I'll come back and certainly inform you later. But generally, when something does become unacceptable, or that we're still waiting on something, the clock at this point, we generally stop it for, again, depending on what is reasonable and what is not.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving to item number 6.2, which is a consent application summary land division file number B5322. The recommendation here, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Duncan, that the Council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B5322 as presented for lands described as Part Lot 1, Concession 12, with a municipal address of 8692, Concession 12, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That payment be made of a fee of $332 for a letter of clearance. That a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township. That driveway access to the retained lands can be provided to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That zoning compliance to restrict residential uses on the retained lands is addressed to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. And that silos and barn are removed to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. And turn over the page. That servicing can be accommodated on the severed lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. And further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Any questions or comments from council on this? Councilor Craven.
I had a couple of phone calls on this from a neighbor, and he was they were both kind of concerned about houses going there close to that chicken barn that's just gone up on a neighboring property. And several years ago, the province in their wisdom said no more residential lots in rural areas. So are we going to abide by that? Are we going to create new lots like that? I'm not too sure. I'm too much in favor of this.
Linda.
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Craven, this is a consent being requested under the surplus farm dwelling severances. So it is an existing dwelling. It's an existing residential lot. There will not be another house constructed because the farm parcel, the larger parcel, has to be restricted as a condition of approval. It has to be restricted from allowing a dwelling to be constructed. So this isn't a new residential lot. It's an existing residential lot. They're just removing it from the farm parcel.
Any further questions or comments? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Linda, just a quick question about the foundations, the silo. I think it's a great idea to do it now, but why do we care if those foundations are there or not?
So the silos are there. So the silos should be removed because those are considered farm buildings and used for farm purposes. So really they shouldn't be there. The silo, it's not that big of a deal, but it's preferable that they're removed. The barn, the aerial mapping still shows the barn there. I know on the survey sketch, they've written down that it's just a foundation. So that condition is there to just cover it off. If it is just a foundation, we don't care. But if there is more to it than just the foundation, it should be removed. The other thing that I just want to bring to everybody's attention is the intention of these surplus farm dwelling severances is that the farmland is farmed. So all the land that's left with the farm should be put into a state of like capable of being farmed, being cropped. So they should be cleaning up all those buildings and any foundations and making that land farmable. We can't require it, but that's one step to doing it, is to ask them to clean it up, get rid of it.
Thank you. Further comments and questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. It's carried. Moving on to item 6.3. This was moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that the council. Sorry. Councillor Douglas. And Councillor Ottens, that the council of the Township of Mapleton, I just can't read the writing here, that's all it is. Township of Mapleton Council support consent application B 5422 as presented for lands described as Survey Moore East Part Lot 9, Concession 9, RP 60R 3049, Part 1, with a municipal address of 115 McGivern Street with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That payment be made of a fee of $332 or whatever fee is applicable at the time of clearance under the fees and charges bylaw for a letter of clearance. That the parkland dedication fee be paid $1,400 in 2022 as provided for in the Planning Act RSO 1990. That driveway access to the severed lands can be provided to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That servicing can be accommodated on the severed lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That a copy of the deposited reference plan be submitted to the township. And further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Any questions or comments on this one? Councilor Douglas, anything? How about Councilor Duncan? You got anything? That's Councilor Craven.
If those are ash trees on that lot, the sooner we get rid of them and burn the darn thing, get rid of them, the better off without the ash trees.
Thank you. Anything else? Any further? I call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.4. Moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas. The council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B 6222 and B 6322 as presented on lands described as part lots 1, 2, and 3, concession 9, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That the payment be made of the fee of $332 or whatever fee is applicable at the time of clearance under the fees and charges bylaw for a letter of clearance. That a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township, and that B 63-22 and B 6422 are conditional on B 62-22 being approved. And further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Questions on this one? Or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Item 6.5. Moved by Councillor Douglas, second by Councillor Ottens, that the council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B 64-22 as presented for lands described as part lot 1, concession 9, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That payment be made of a fee of $332 or whatever fee is applicable at the time of clearance under the fees and charges bylaw for a letter of clearance. That a parkland dedication fee be paid $1,400 in 2022 as provided for in the Planning Act RSO 1990. That a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township that minimum distance separation 1 is achieved, that B 63-22 and B 62-22 are conditional on B 64-22 being approved. And further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Questions, comments on this one? Item 6.5. Councillor Martin.
I think these last, or this application and the one before were actually quite creative to create a building lot. So just, you can't really tell from the sketches, but there is no other building lot on this particular chunk, farm chunk, correct? Is that why a secondary or a building lot is allowed to be created?
Through you, Mayor. That's not quite. So the rail line exists as a separate lot currently, the whole rail line. Technically, it's zoned agriculture. Technically, they could build a dwelling on that long strip. So by doing the lot line, by severing off the back piece of that rail line and merging it with the adjacent farms and keeping that little strip and then doing a lot line adjustment to join, merge a bit more land with that remaining strip. Technically, there's a lot there now. We're just reconfiguring the shape of it, essentially. Yes.
I think he's just saying great work is what he's saying. Anything further? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moving on then to item 6.6. We're getting through these. Moved by Councillor Douglas, second by Councillor Ottens, that the Council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B 65-22 as presented for lands described as East Part Lot 17, Concession 5, Part Lot 4, 8, 43-48, Plan Thomas Henderson Survey with a municipal address of 6782 Leslie Lane with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes, that payment be made, fee of $332 for a letter of clearance, that a copy of deposit reference plan be submitted to the township, the parkland dedication fee be paid as provided for in the Planning Act, RSO 1990, that driveway access to the retained lands can be provided to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that zoning compliance be compliance to remove the site specific exemption and address the accessory structures is addressed to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that servicing can be accommodated on the severed and retained lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township, and further that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Okay. Questions on this one? Or comments? Great work again. All in favor? Sorry, wait,
Sorry, I'm just trying to find the sketch.
trying to find a sketch.
Is this the one where the shed's gonna get cut down the middle and, okay, so I almost didn't even have to look to see who the surveyor planner was on this particular file. But is that not like through you, Mr. Mayor, is that not a ridiculous idea? Like, what are the chances that that building that sits on the boundary gets cut in half and what is it, a meter you need on each side? Whatever the guidance would be, like, I feel like that's ridiculous. Why not just move the shed? Or is it a big shed?
So the question is, why not just move the shed? Yeah, I just remove it, in my opinion, but that's why the condition is written the way it's written, to be very generic, that it's dealt with to meet zoning, whether that is to cut it down the middle, they're not gonna have setbacks, they're not gonna meet the setbacks, so they're gonna need a variance of some kind, or remove it. Yeah.
Something will be done with the shed. The team will take care of that.
And Mr. Buseman is not a planner, he's his land surveyor.
He's a lot of things, just not a planner. I think he has some other titles behind his, that he says he has. Anyway, any other questions on this? All those in favor then? That's carried. And I think we've come to our last one here. Item 6.7, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas, that the Council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B66-22 as presented for lands described as Part Lot 22, Concession 13, lots 43, 44, and 74, Part Lots 45-47, Plan 134, and the municipally known as 26 and 28 Peel Street West, Alma, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes, that the payment be made of a fee of $332 for a letter of clearance, that a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township, that zoning compliance on the retained lands is addressed to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that servicing can be accommodated on the severed and retained lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township, and further, that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer, the planning and land division committee at the county of Wellington, a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. I think our planning and development manager is going to be busy and has been busy. Any questions, comments on this one? Councillor Martin.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one actually just confuses me, to be honest. The planning comments echo or have some concerns with the size of the parcel to be retained. So it's already undersized. Now we're making it smaller. I would struggle with that, I guess. Just, I understand why the applicant, I guess, would want to merge it on title with their particular property, but you're making a parcel that's even, I don't know, it feels awkward. I'm not sure about this one.
Linda?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I had the same sort of feeling about it. And so I raised that in my planning comments simply because I'm trying to be consistent with a decision that council made on a property in Alma a couple meetings ago, that they were severing in half and they were creating a very small parcel. So I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that in that situation, you know, the same concerns were raised and we asked them to make the lot bigger. In this instance, the way the lot is laid out, I don't like the size, but at the same time, the way the lot is laid out, I think it's not as worrisome in terms of where their septic and where their well is currently existing on that retained parcel, to the same extent that the other one council dealt with was an issue because of where their septic and well was situated. So I just wanted to raise it to make council aware that it is small, but it might be okay too. Because of the configuration.
Councillor Craven?
I agree, that severed piece of lot or that retained piece of lot is going to be pretty small. What kind of a piece of land is that going to be able to be used for? Anything other than growing weeds?
Through you, Mayor, are you referring to the piece that's being severed off of it?
Well, this is being retained. A small lot.
So the piece being severed is the small lot and it's merging with the adjacent lot. So they're gonna use it. The adjacent lot is gonna be using it. So I'm not sure what they're gonna use it for. it wasn't clear in the report from the land surveyor, but I want to say that perhaps they're already using it as their property. Maybe this is just formalizing that arrangement.
This is a puzzle piece in this one. Everything's moving. It's a number of moving parcels. Councilor Martin, you got something else here? You're still pondering. I can see the wheels turning. Anybody else? That's great. Are you done? Anything else? Okay. All those in favor then? Opposed? Sorry, Councilor Ottens, I didn't see your hand either way. You're in favor? Okay. And that one carries then. All right, so we'll move on now. We have two delegations that are not here. I know we got the regrets from Duff Moore. He sent an email just after council starting, said there's a family situation that he can't come. And we don't have with us the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. So we'll move on. Item 9, then 9.1. The Building Department, we have moved by Councillor Douglas, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township of Mapleton Council received Building Department Report BD 22-08 dated June 14, 2022 regarding May month end and year to date. The council has that report in front of them. Any questions on that report, council? All those in favor then of receiving that report? That's carried. And 9.21, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas, that the Township of Mapleton Council received information clerk's report CL 2022-12 regarding delegation of authority during the restricted acts of council, known as lame duck periods of the 22 municipal and school board election, and that council consider the attached draft bylaw delegating authority to the CEO and the clerk. I'll turn this over to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing extra to add. We, of course, have are halfway to being not lame duck with nominations of the mayor and Councillor Ottens, and that's really all I have.
Questions then from council members to the clerk? Seeing no questions at this point in time. All those in favor of receiving this? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 9.2.2, moved by Councillor Douglas, second by Councillor Ottens, that the Township of Mapleton Council received for information Clerk's Report CL 2022-14 dated June 14, 2022 regarding a joint compliance audit committee, and that council approves the terms of reference for a joint compliance audit committee with the Wellington County municipalities attached as Schedule A for the 2022-2026 term of council. And further, that council considers the attached draft bylaw establishing a joint compliance audit committee attached to Schedule B for the 2022-2026 term of council. And further, that council considers the attached draft bylaw to appoint members to the joint compliance audit committee attached as Schedule C for the 2022-2026 term of council. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing much further to add. The clerk of Puslinch did most of the work on this one, but there is a movement towards sharing committees. I just seen 2 weeks ago, City of Guelph and the region of Waterloo are sharing a joint compliance audit committee.
Questions for the clerk on this one? Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the clerk, the 4 current members of this committee and the proposed, do we know where they're from, who they are? I forget. I know we talked about them a couple of years back or 4 years ago. Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, but I could easily email the members tomorrow and let everybody know, but there isn't one from Mapleton. But surrounding area anyway.
Any further questions? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.3, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas. That Township Mapleton Council received for information clerk's report CL 2022-13 concerning a right to disconnect from work policy. And that council approves and adopts the Township of Mapleton right to disconnect policy attached here as Schedule A effective June 2nd, 2022. Mr. Clerk?
Nothing much further to add. This was an idea of the provincial PCs just before the election was called. And we're just putting it in place, although there just isn't too many in Ontario in place yet. Thank you.
No questions to the clerk on this policy? Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the idea is great. I know my employer has pushed out a notification of a policy similar to this. I guess my question will be, what are we going to do to make sure that it has teeth and we make sure that our folks do disconnect? Because I think it is conceptually a great idea. But if like, well, you're too important and you're too important and you need to take my call when I call and you need to email me back when I email you. If it's not going to do much, I get we need to have something in place. But, you know, is there going to be, do we have other ideas moving forward, you know, to make sure that everyone gets their vacation time, or is that even an issue locally? I guess should be my first question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it will be interesting to see this sort of anecdotal evidence this first year, and hopefully we'll get feedback from not only our staff, but across the province. I've seen that there's an obligation of employers to ensure that all employees are informed of what their normal working hours are reasonably expected to be. So I think maybe management has a duty now to front up and be open about it.
It's a good question, Councillor Martin. And you notice in the report, there are a few exceptions to who's allowed to disconnect. Mr. Barron's not allowed to disconnect. He's on 24/7. Except on his vacation when he tells us when he's going somewhere and then we don't bug him. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Ottens?
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. I think this is good. And I think what this really does regarding the teeth part that Councillor Martin said, it gives the employees the right, like it gives them the feeling that they can say no, that they can disconnect. Maybe before they felt like they couldn't, that they were obligated always to stay connected. So this is sort of in writing that now they have the teeth to say no and to turn off, and that it gives them a little bit more power maybe.
Thank you, Councillor Ottens. Any further, Councillor Craven?
Yeah, so if somebody phones as a friend of one of the plow operators, he phones the plow operator at night and says, why the heck didn't you plow my road better today? The road employee can more or less tell him to go to heck, Kenny.
Maybe not answer the phone. Yeah. Mr. Douglas?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, just how does this apply to council? It doesn't really address council at all. Like I know. I'll send Manny messages at random times of the evening or weekend. I see the CAO is exempt, but just wondering if it should also include council.
Council disconnecting or council not bothering those people that were supposed to be disconnected? That one, okay. Well, you see the list of the people there, and Mr. Barron is not on the list and the chief's not on the list. I don't think either of our other two directors are on that list, so we can bug the heck out of them all you want. It's just everybody else no. Any other questions? All those in favor then of this policy? Anybody opposed? Nobody? Perfect. That's carried then. Moving on to the next item, item 9.3.1. We're finally at Councillor Craven and seconded by Councillor Martin. That means we're halfway through. The Township of Mapleton Council received close to home report CTH 2022-02 dated June 14, 2022 regarding the annual reconciliation report. And further, that council authorized the mayor and the CEO to execute the certification document pertaining to the annual reconciliation report and any and all ancillary documents. This is yours, is it not, Helen? Do you want to speak to this at all? All right. Helen will answer all the questions council has. All right. So this is a report that we get quite often, at least once a year from Helen. And so if council has any questions on the report, please speak up and Helen will love to take the podium and answer all those questions you have. I'm not seeing any yet. Helen looks safe to be in her seat. All right, all those in favor then? That's carried. Next item up is 9.4.1, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Craven, that Economic Development Report ED 2022-02 dated June 14, 2022 regarding Digital Main Street 4.0 will be received for information, and Ally does not get to have a pass. Ally, take the podium, please.
So this is through your mayor. This is a project you guys are familiar with or should be familiar with. The OBIA has announced more funding. They did a few months ago for the Digital Main Street project to come back. This time the project is a 2-year contract. It will include 2 grant intake periods. So we have hired a Digital Main Street Service Squad member to work with Minto, Wellington North, and Mapleton again. It is a part-time position for 2 years. With that, the first intake for the grant, which is a $2,500 grant for any brick and mortar commercially zoned business in the town. She will be reaching out to all of those businesses, seeing if they would like to do anything. This is again, the last time they had opened it up to all businesses, not just downtown businesses. And then this one again now reopens to the businesses that applied our first time running this program. So they now can reapply for this funding, which is great because those are the businesses that really jumped on board with the project, and they will again. And we saw the second round, a few more businesses see it. So it's just a great project. It is completely funded. So it's a great one, and it gives our businesses some funding to do what they want. And then we have the 2 years with Nelia. So she'll be able to help and support other businesses that may not qualify for the grant throughout the 2-year period as well. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Ally. Questions then for Ally on her report? Councillor Craven.
These businesses have to be within the urban area though, do they?
They just have to be commercially zoned. So.
Thank you, Ally. Are there questions? Great opportunity for businesses to get connected if they're not connected yet. Okay, thank you. All those in favor then of receiving this? Thank you. That's carried. Next item up here, we have item 9.51, moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Martin, that Township Mapleton Council received finance report 2022-12 dated June 14, 2022 regarding application for tile loan Form 6. And further, that Township Mapleton Council approved the application for tile loan Form 6 for property located east part lot 7, west part lot 8, concession 6, former township appeal in the amount of $50,000, provided that funds are available from the province. And we'll turn this over to our finance director. Mr. Morrison, anything to add to this?
Through you, your worship, I believe the report could stand on its own. It's a standard application for a tile loan.
Thank you. Questions on this tile loan to Mr. Morrison? Seeing none, all those in favor then? Any opposed? That's carried. Next line up is 9.5.2, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Craven. The Township of Mapleton Council received Finance Report 2022-10 regarding the Q1 2022 operating budget variance as information. Mr. Morrison.
Through you, your worship, this is the one of a series of reports that will be provided to council to look at the trends that are occurring through the year. It's really rather early in the year to make any concrete decisions at this point. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Questions on this report to Mr. Morrison? Lots of good information in there with the Q1. If there are no questions, I will call the question then. All those in favor? That's carried. 9.6.1 moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Martin, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information fire report FR 2022-05, the monthly communique. Chief.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 9.6.1 is our monthly communique, which actually was a two-monthly one, two-month report because we missed last month due to some being backed up with the fire chiefs conference, that sort of thing. But it does give the same kind of results with the amount of calls being up a little bit. Our training continues on. We've used the Flinkert House to cross Marina for several months now. We've been done using it for our own department now till the fall. It's been very appreciative. We've sent off a plaque to Mrs. Flinkert to appreciate her. I think she used the house. This past month, we actually had the opportunity to hire a person by the name of Jason DeFoss. He's #1 extrication trainer in all of Canada and one of the top 4 in North America. He's demonstrated at Indianapolis and Memphis, and he's in Germany this week. So we had the opportunity to have him come up for 2 nights, last 2 Mondays and Monday and Tuesday ago. And very excellent entertaining, or not entertaining, but also very informative on new ways to get people out of cars. A lot of real new methods from the last 4 months, last 4 years that we had. And everybody got a lot out of it for sure. The other thing we have is we've started back with some public education at Fire Hall. The Maranatha Mennonite Schools offered to do some community service by cleaning all the fire trucks, including the pickup truck. They detailed them all with brushes and everything right there, did a great job. And we thanked them for it, and they're really happy to do it. So that's basically a nutshell of what we did the last 2 months.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief on his communique? I think it's great that he had this expert come up and show our team what the possibilities are.
Unfortunately, we're getting a lot of practical training too, so on-scene training. So
good to have some new tools in that tool belt when we have so many that we use it for. I think we used it this past week, didn't we, or last week?
Last 2 weeks have been lots. Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions for the chief on this? I'll call a question. All those in favor of receiving it? That's carried. Moving on to item 9.6.2, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Craven, that Township of Mapleton Council declare the 1992 GMC diesel tanker truck, now known as Tanker 88, surplus in accordance with Finance Policy 7.34, disposal of assets. Chief?
This truck was actually going to be sent out to pasture when we got the new tanker in Drayton almost 5 years ago. But we felt at the time as it was just still running well and it carried water from point A to point B. So when we have the big barn fires, house fires, it would be an extra load of water that would be there and only take up a little spot in Moorfield, which was empty, open, I should say. Since then, it's been used very well, but in last year and this coming year, up here, we've been told that there's going to need a lot of repairs to it. It's going to cost a lot of money to upkeep it. We thought this might be time to maybe just put it into surplus and dispose of it.
Thank you, Chief. Questions on this report to the chief? Councillor Martin.
Mr. Mayor, it's not really about the tanker. It's more about the command vehicle, our unit 2 that's going in over there. I think that's a great utilization for it. Has there been any discussion or conversation around using it for responding to medical calls instead of rolling the rescue? Or is there a standard or something that needs to be in place, or what, price of fuel and all that, right? I don't know if it's,
It hasn't been discussed. We've thought about that a little while ago. Some areas like Linwood have gone to that type of, you thought where you've seen it from. We would have to reconfine that truck so it's just medical stuff and be able to carry 4 people to medical call with the defibrillator, the oxygen, the other kits we have in the truck. We were thinking that unit 2, the older pickup truck, would be used more for going to calls and bringing back old hose, like hoses to be cleaned up, as you know, and portable pumps and all things that get dirty and you don't want to put them in the trucks. Really, there's no place in the trucks for them. Bring them back, wash them up, and put them back on the truck where they belong. Also, that unit 2 would be also a people mover for big calls running back and forth, and Tim Hortons and that type of thing. So that's more what we thought unit 2 would be used for.
Thank you. Further questions or comments on this report? I'll call the question. All those in favor of this report? That's carried. And one more from the chief here, 9.63, moved by Councillor Craven, FR 2022-07, dated June 14, 2022. And that Township of Mapleton Council endorsed the resolution by the town of Aurora by motion 10.3 on May 24th, 2022 as attached. Chief?
This one maybe requires a little more background. Provincial government is set to pass new legislation on January 5th, 2022. It's all showing all signs of being passed through the fire chiefs conference a month ago and through other discussions we've had. It looks like it's going to be passed unanimously. And what it's going to do is going to regulate fire departments to certify to the level of service determined by the municipal councils. So there are 43 levels of service to be presented to Mapleton Township after legislation is approved with input from our members. This would make everybody certified in the things that we say we're going to provide service to. The cost estimates of completing this function will be determined by the level of service that the council decides we're going to perform. The town of Aurora has initiated this question on where these costs are going to come from and where the time is going to come from for all our volunteers and everybody to go the extra distance. The other thing on the good part of this is when we decide on, say, auto extrication, which we just talked about, that's one of the things that we would want to certify in. We would have till July 5th of 2026 to get to that certification for all of our members. So if it's 4 years, so it will be time, you can train over that time and kind of spread the costs out. But it still will be when all the things are put together, we think we need to certify, and it's going to add a lot of costs for the next 4 years. So we just got to be aware of that.
Thank you, Chief. Questions on this one then to the Chief, Councillor Martin.
So, I'm not even really sure where to go with this question exactly, but is the background on this, so the Ontario Professional Firefighters Association and the Teachers Union are two of the most biggest lobbyists for the province, or to the province. So is the genesis of, or is it your opinion that the genesis of this comes with creating a standard or a certification across the province that, eventually it'll get to the point where we have full-time firefighters across the province? Or is this, because, as you know, the industry itself is pretty unregulated at the moment, so a little bit of standardization and certification coming in isn't all bad. But is this just as much a political conversation as it is a practical one?
So where the discussion came from through the government a few years, 2 years ago now, is that you need qualified firefighters, no matter if you're in Mapleton or downtown city of Toronto. You still need to be trained at the same level. Like if you're going to be doing an auto extrication, or you're going to be doing a house fire, doing search and rescue or ventilation, you have to be certified to those levels so everybody's on the same page. The people that take certification, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 now that got certified in Mapleton, have gone on to become full-time firefighters, which 2 of them are still with us, but the other ones have moved to another big city. We'll be certified at the same level. So the thing is to get everybody in the province, when you have a car accident in some small town outside of Sudbury, you get the same treatment as you do when you have one in downtown Waterloo. So it just wants to get everybody the same level of accreditation, providing that your township council has said we're going to go to that level. So the levels of service will be, like I said, there's 43 different levels of service you can provide. And the basic one is just the external firefighting. You can have you can say, all we want our township fire department to do is external firefighting. Don't go in any houses for search and rescue. Don't do any ventilation. You're just going to spray water from the outside and put the fire out and do whatever you have to do after that's out. So of course, it goes from there to internal firefighting and search and rescue and ventilation and auto extrication and confined space and water rescue. All the ones from there make up these 43 that we have to pick from after July 5th. I don't think it's you.
Thank you, Chief. And that's certainly kind of scary if you go to just at one level, right? And just say, we're just going to spray some water on a house and hope for the best compared to doing the whole gambit of things. So of course, bringing up Councilor Martin's point, it's almost like the province is pushing towards having full-time services because it's going to be very difficult for volunteer firefighters in small communities like ours to keep up with all the certifications that are needed that a full-time service has to have. And then we're going to have to do the same.
Yeah, I think where that external thing came from only is that there are 3 identified fire departments in the province that only do external firefighting. One not too far from us here actually, and but they will go to fire, do the external firefighting, then call in somebody that's certified to do internal to come from another station, another township to perform that. But some of these departments only have maybe 8 calls a year, and 4 of them are auto extrication, a couple of them are CO alarms, and 2 fires. So I mean, how much time you spend on all these internal and search and rescue and all that sort of thing, which will matter when you have somebody in a house that's burning for sure.
And of course, Chief, we know that locally here, fires aren't what we do mostly. Our staff, it's auto extrication and medical. So, we definitely wouldn't want to lose that because we are generally there before anybody else to do those things. And who else would we call? We'd have to call, Listowel up, have to call Palmerston over, what are we at now? 30 calls this year so far, somewhere around there. So, yeah. For accidents. So if we were saying we're not going to do those, we're just going to do, put the fire out, who's going to do that? So that makes it very difficult. Councilor Craven?
So in the end, on the advice of yourself and firefighters in our department, it would still be up to council to decide what level we want to provide. And like you say, we might only want to provide external firefighting if that's all the training that our guys have.
Just to be clear though, all of our firefighters, we have 40 firefighters right now. We're trying to hire 4 more in the fall. Out of those 40, 37 are external or internal trained firefighters that do search and rescue, ventilation, all the things you have to do to go into the house. There's 17 different performances you have to do to be internal trained. 37 of our members are external and internal trained. Only 3 are external. They didn't take the training for the internal for different reasons. One, you can't go in a house if you have a beard on. You can't put a air pack on. So if you got a beard, you can't be certified in internal search. Another person was just in the end of his career, not really wishing to do the extra training for internal.
Thank you, Chief. And for the province to give 30 days for consultation, it's really not a whole lot of time for fire services right across the province to come up with any kind of plans or for consultation to take place. So,
yeah.
Further questions or comments then? So, Chief, I just have one question thought in my head here. Can you have part of the service have one level and another part have a second level, or is it right across the board, everyone has the same level?
You can have a station with one part of training and another station with another level of training, but you have to have your whole station trained to that level that you're going to provide. So as an example there, if we had the external and internal things happening, I won't call it Moorfield and Drayton, I'll call it Station A, Station B, just to be careful. If one station was only going to do external because they don't have the will from the people to take all the extra training, then Station B will have to come in and cover for that when they have those calls. Same goes for auto extrication and water rescue, everything.
So what, again, in my head, Chief, say we were to hire, and I'm not saying we're gonna do this, I'm just throwing it out there. Say we were to hire 10 full-time firefighters. And then we'd have part-time on the side.
Yeah.
Could the 10 be fully covered with all the training and then the others have less training?
Yes, they can, but if you're gonna use the composite model, like places like Caledon that have, they're gonna use the full timers on daytimes, so that volunteers can go to their work and not be bothered. That's just an enormous call. But the problem comes in if you have, let's say you don't supply auto extrication to the volunteers at nights, well, then they can't do extrication. So you can't, your department is not selected for that kind of service. So it's across the board.
Thanks, Chief. I just wanted to make sure we're looking at all the bases and all. We want to be cognizant of what our community needs as much as we want to, save money in the training part of things, but we also have to know that this is what we're doing and what level of service we want to provide. So I'm fully supportive of this resolution to cover this off. I don't think fire services across the province have had enough opportunity to work with the province on this.
The other thing, just if I can interrupt for a minute, those 10 full-time firefighters you're talking about are about $1 million. And right now, our whole budget for everything we do, including mutual aid and some money put away for capital, is under $800,000. So for all of it.
I was just spitballing, Chief. I wasn't going out there. Don't take and say I'm going to do it. Mr. Barron.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. So it's evident that I think our firefighters, our volunteer firefighters, are being stretched extremely thin. Perhaps there's an opportunity for Mapleton maybe to be able to explore things that make it easier to get volunteers and easier for our volunteer firefighters to get the training. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is we very much appreciate them and the work, but the fact remains that they have a full-time job, they have families, and perhaps maybe at budget time, or Rick and I can work on this and come up with, I think we should try to explore creative ways that we can reward and entice firefighters to do what they do, because without them, I mean, we're dead in the water. But truthfully, I don't think that everything that they're asked to do and legislation keeps changing. I do believe that it's incumbent upon us to be the employer of choice, maybe think outside the 9 dots and figure out ways to make it more palatable for them to come and do their work. It could be exploring benefits. It can be exploring family insurance. It could be, if you come during the day, your points double. I don't know, but I do think we need to and owe it to Mapleton and firefighters to come up with ways and brainstorm ways to help and encourage them to come to be a firefighter.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Further comments and questions then? All those in favor of endorsing the resolution by the town of Aurora by motion? That's carried. Moving on to items 9.71, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Craven, that Township Mapleton Council receive Public Works Drainage Report, PW 2022-09, dated June 14, 2022, entitled Improvement of the Brant Drainage Works, and that the Council of the Township of Mapleton accept the improvement petition for the Brant Drainage Works and prepare a notice to be sent to the involved property owners and the Grand River Conservation Authority. And for that, effective 30 days after notice of the project is sent to the GRCA, Tom Pridham of RJ Burnside and Associates Limited be appointed under Section 78 of the Drainage Act to undertake the project on behalf of the Township of Mapleton to improve the Brant Drainage Works. Ms. Bettina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to council. So this report is basically a procedural report. to comply with the legislation to appoint the engineer to look after the improvements. The drain is significantly aged and not operating properly, and repairs are required. Again, just procedural, just following the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Matina. Isn't it great that we have Tom Pridham living in our community, that, premier drainage guy for Ontario and probably Canada, living right here in Mapleton. Questions to Mr. Matina on this report? Yes, Mr. Douglas.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question to Mr. Matina. So there's 6 petitioners, I guess, here, but the scope of the work could expand on some of those other branches. What happens with those other landowners? How do they get included in the cost recovery, I guess?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Duncan, sorry, Douglas. The apportionment is based on land area, and so a calculation will be made once the costs are incurred, and those additional landowners will be charged accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Matina. Just Councillor Douglas.
So that's whether they want to be a part of it or not. They just automatically get assessed because they're part of the catchment area. Is that right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Douglas. Yeah, the drain is not operating properly. So these additional landowners probably realize it, but have not come forward. But the drainage engineer has it. If those branches are require some work, the work will be done at the same time.
Further questions from Mr. Matina? All right, call the question then. All those in favor? That's carried. Nine point 7.2, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Craven, that Township Mapleton Council receive Public Works Report PW 2022-07 dated June 14, 2022 regarding the Nesbitt Street Alma drainage repair, and the Township Mapleton Council authorized the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement to allow Township Mapleton Resources to enter onto the affected properties to undertake the required repairs. Mr. Matina, this is yours again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. So I believe the report pretty well explains the situation. We've had a significant issue here with the water table in the area, and some pumps not having a proper outlet. And it's been ongoing for many, many years. So we've finally come up with the resolution, and there is an easement behind these properties that carries the outlet pipe, and it's been discovered that the piping is inadequate and needs to be replaced. The problem is the last 2 homeowners on the line are outside of the easement. And we need permission to enter those 2 properties in order to extend the drain, in order to connect those 2 pumps, those 2 sump pump outlets. So this report asks for council to sign an agreement to enter onto that property to make those repairs.
Thank you, Ms. Matina. Questions, Ms. Matina, on this? Councillor Craven.
Yeah, Sam, I look on the picture, and lot 16, which is the first lot, the drain that you want to put in doesn't go behind their property, but will they be able to hook up to it anyway?
Lot 16, through you, Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Craven. I believe lot 16 is on, it backs onto the easement, and all the properties will be connected as we proceed to replace that pipe, including the 2 at the top end of the easement close to the county road that currently cannot reach that pipe.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Matina, is the easement being extended as well, or just the drain itself?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Douglas. No, the easement will not change. We're just asking permission to enter onto the property to install the pipes.
Thank you. Councillor Craven again. So Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Sam. First of all, thanks for finding a solution. This is one street in Alma that's seared in my brain over the last 8 years for this particular reason. So it's nice that there's a potential solution. But second and thirdly, so we've had noted non-compliance with the bylaw. Have we issued any fines to try and gain compliance, or do we just note that there's non-compliance? And second, thirdly, if we do create a solution, if there's been non-compliance so far, what sort of guarantee do we have that people are even going to use the solution versus just doing what they've been doing historically for years?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Martin. So as you know, many attempts have been made for the residents to comply, and many have complied and tried to comply. But the situation is that the water table is too high and the water has nowhere to go. And then upon investigation, the outlet is plugged and is deficient. So we own the outlet and we have an obligation to correct the problem. So we will correct the problem by doing this work. We will be connecting those houses to the drain. So it should solve the problem. I don't anticipate, I mean, there was non-compliance because the homeowners had no alternative but to not comply because there was no outlet. So now there is an outlet, there will be a connection. It will automatically solve the problem. There's no other effort required by the homeowners to comply. And they're aware of the bylaw, but we have our responsibility as well to provide an outlet. So we're doing that for them.
Thank you, Ms. Martina. Councilor Craven now.
Through you, Mayor, to Sam, thank you very much, finally. I was talking to somebody from Alma the other day, and it wasn't my son, but somebody else that was on there. We think it's maybe 12 years ago that we started to complain about that water going on the road from that one lot. And so finally, maybe we're going to get it stopped and deal with it. We think it's 12 years since we started to complain about that.
Thank you, Councilor Craven. Further questions or comments on this one? Councilor Douglas.
Yes, one more question for Mr. Martina through you, Mr. Mayor. So future maintenance on that extension that's not in the easement, do you have to go back to those property owners in the future? Or are they responsible for maintaining that 146 feet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Douglas, we will treat that 146 feet as our pipe. For some reason, back when the subdivision was designed, the pipe stopped where it did. And I can't speak to that as to why it stopped short. But, you know, we have an obligation, as I said, to provide an outlet, and this is the extension to the outlet. There's no need for us to have an easement to do this. We're asking permission to enter to install the pipe. We will maintain it should be required, but we will need permission again to enter if that's the case.
Thank you, Ms. Martina. Further questions? Councillor
I
Craven.
can just make the comment that it's about 10 years ago, they were having a lot of trouble with that drain. Jim Gross and I walked the whole drain, and down there quite a piece, there was a couple of lots at the back of the lots that had cattails growing in the back of their yard. And those were that was what bunged up the drain. So we cleaned out the drain. We got those people talked into cutting the grass there, planting grass there instead of cattails. And that did help that drain for quite a while because it didn't have stuff growing into this bed. But it is an inadequate, it's too small a drain to start with, really.
Thank you. Anything further? And I'll call the questions. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next item, item 10.5. Oh, hang on.
They're going to do it all at once.
All right, so I have here, moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Martin, that bylaws numbered 2022-035, 2022-036, 2022-037, 2022-038, 2022-039. Be hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk with seal of the corporate seal. questions, comments on this? Okay. Go ahead.
Just a question, because I've forgotten. So fees and charges, I looked back at the minutes to jog my memory about what we had decided on the advertising, the arena advertising, what the split was gonna be. Do you know off the top of your head? Because I couldn't remember and I couldn't see it in the minutes. It just kind of said as discussed.
I'm sure, I mean, Alex here through Mr. Mayor to speak to that if you'd like, but that schedule is attached to the bylaw on your agenda.
Yeah, I see the rates. I just wasn't sure. I know the initial proposition was gonna be like $100 or something. I couldn't remember what we had settled on.
So split 50-50. That's the answer to that question. Okay, right in front of you. I'm just saying it for the online here. So it is split 50-50. Any further questions, comments then? And I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Next item 11. We have 11.1. This is corresponds with council's direction. We have 11.1. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Craven, that Township Mapleton Council received for information a letter dated June 22 from 3 MPs, Shannon Stubbs, Damien Carrick, and Jacques Gourde, regarding a town hall to address federal funding for rural communities, and that members of council collaborate with CAO Manny Barron to determine and respond with the 3 most important issues impacting your economic development as a rural community. I know Mr. Barron and I both got the letter from these 3. And I can tell you that on both Mr. Barron and my mind right away is the unfair, how unfair it is for when you apply for grants and funding from the federal government, that when they say shovel ready, that means you have to put out a heck of a lot of money to become shovel ready. For small communities, that's very difficult. So really the grants that they're offering are for richer communities, bigger communities, much more than we have. So if we were to put in a $10 million project per se, in order to be shovel ready according to the rules, we'd have to outlay around $800,000 to show that we're shovel ready. And that's a lot of money for a municipality on a whim of hope that we're going to get funding from the federal government. So this is certainly number 1 on my mind. Mr. Barron?
You literally took the words out of my mouth on that one for sure. And also there's always an aspect of green, being green. Larger municipalities are able to hire a position solely dedicated to the environment, and essentially that's all they do is but small municipalities like ours, we just don't have the resources to be able to demonstrate to the government how green we are and come up with projects. So it's like you've mentioned, we're at a fairly big disadvantage right off the hop when it comes to applying for major grants.
Good. Yeah, the OMPF funding is absolutely right. When they reduce that, it hurts us, considering how much funding we lose every year. And that funding was from OFP. The funding was supposed to offset the amount of losses we have, and it doesn't even come close. Councillor Craven?
Further to what you were saying at the start, with a small municipality like us, if we have a project that we would like to do, but we decide we can't go ahead with it unless we get the grant money, then that leaves us in poor shape as far as our infrastructure is concerned, because we're simply putting it off till next year or the year after or the year after. By that time, it's going to be a lot more expensive to fix that piece of infrastructure. And meanwhile, we may lose the use of that infrastructure. So because we're a small municipality, we do lose out because we can't go ahead and, as you say, have it shovel ready. And if it isn't shovel ready, then we can't go ahead unless we get the grant. And then we're in bad shape.
You're right, Councilor Craven, we're in a catch-22. We can't get the grant unless we're shovel ready, but we can't apply for the grant because we don't have the money. So it really, really a stickler for us. That's one of the thoughts. And of course, Mr. Barron also pointed out the funding. Councilor Martin, your thoughts? You're about to push the button.
Well, just for me, it's kind of a balance between putting energy into something like, so these are shadow ministers. They're people who have absolutely no authority and can do absolutely nothing for us at the moment. And in fact, probably the last time their party was in power, the same structure was in place. So that being said, you know, there's that whole, you know, if you don't say your piece, you can't whine, right? But you could say your piece and still nothing will change, right? So kind of the risk reward on putting an awful lot of effort into, you know, something like this, you know, put time, energy, your time, energy, like what are we gonna get out of it?
Well, I'm hoping from our conversations here, from this letter, being on my new position as on the FCM Board of Directors that deals directly with the federal government, then I might be able to bring this through the FCM as well in the rural municipality section and say, you know what, this isn't a disadvantage to rural municipalities right across Canada. It's not just Mapleton, it's right across Canada. That unless you have money, you can't get money from the federal government, and that's not fair. And there's got to be a mechanism that the federal government has for small rural municipalities that is not there right now. They say they're inclusive of rural municipalities, but when they hand out grants, they're not. And that's the disadvantage. So I'm hoping to also bring this to the FCM board when I finally start there in September. Anything further? Then I'll call the question this. All those in favor? It's carried. Item 12, we have correspondence here for council's information. We got 3 items there. Anybody wish to speak to any of those 3 items? Give you time to look at them. We'll have a sip of water. You have 12.1 Municipality of Chatham-Kent Resolution, Retired Home Funding. Senator Wellington has one here in public meeting proposed zoning amendments on farm diversified additional residential units. And 12.3 is District of Muskoka Annual Emergency Exercise Exemptions. Any comments on any of these? Then we'll move on. Notice of motion, item 13. Any notice of motion? 14 is notice of provision, North Wellington Community News, May 26th edition. And we'll move on to item 15, other business. Anybody have anything for other business? Councilor Craven?
Just that visit we had to the Signet Barn was very informative, very good. And it told me that we should do a little bit more of that to an odd farm, but lots of our businesses here so that we can get a better idea how they operate and what some of their problems are. We could maybe have tours of some of our businesses that would be good.
Yeah, Councilor Craven, absolutely. And I know that we had those plans in place before COVID and then COVID hit. So those plans will come ahead and we still need to go to a number of places that we've been invited to and that we want to reach out to. So we'll reach out to them again in the future and go visit those. Anything else for other business? You want to stick on the other business here and go to Ms. Martina. Ms. Martina, your road tour, did you have something for council on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So we're preparing the package. We're almost there. Just thinking about that. So it's going to be sometime in July, I think. And probably I'll probably announce it at the July meeting and then we'll schedule from there. I may send out the schedule ahead of time just so I can organize it, but we're almost ready with the package.
Thank you, Ms. Martina. Mr. Barron, can you talk about the water tower a little bit, about what's coming up soon?
Certainly. Sam and I met with the SEMA team today, this morning. And the lift is going to begin on the 21st and is going to end, I believe, the week after, if everything goes well. Actually, go ahead, Sam.
Mr. Barron, I didn't want to cut you off, but I just want to make it clear, the lift will actually, the actual lift happens in the one day. So it's scheduled for the 21st. But, you know, the whole operation takes a week because they have to pin it and weld it and so on and so forth. But the actual vertical lift will be done in the 10-hour day.
Do you have a confirmed date now? It's gonna be the 21st?
It's currently set as the 21st, yes.
Yeah, tentatively set, because they're doing another lift right now somewhere else.
That's right. So it's all weather dependent. If we get a couple of storms, bad days, whatever, it changes automatically, right?
All right.
Sorry, Mr. Barron.
So with that, we're going to put out some media release of when it's going to be happening. Ally, social media and whatever else.
Yeah, we can put that and just have that it is still weather dependent.
Because I think it'd be kind of a really neat thing for anybody in the community to go and watch and see. And yeah, it's really exciting to see that piece be lifted up. I know it's a little bit of time away before we commission this, sometime in October, I'm hoping. But to see that piece lifted up and over top of the township in Drayton, it's going to be really nice.
I've got a 92-year-old that's lived in Maryborough or Mapleton all his life. Lives up in the north part of the township now with his one son. He is really wanting to come and watch that be lifted up. So if I brought him on the 21st, would that be a day that he could sit there and watch at least part of it?
Well, that's the hope right now is the 21st. And
Oh,
and of
it's-
course,
yeah.
you could check with Mr. Martina prior to bringing this gentleman to it, to make sure the date is right.
Yeah, in case of bad weather or something.
Yeah. But
Great.
Ally will make sure there's social media out there in case other people want to come watch it. Mr. Barron, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so as part of that, the lift, we've been talking, Ally, and maybe we can expand. So Ally has come up with what I think is a great idea. We can have invite people to see the lift, but and if I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but you really do want to set up an actual event that will celebrate the entire thing, and you're bouncing stuff off. We want to make a big deal out of it, but it's going to be a big deal on the 21st, but it's not going to be an even bigger deal at a later date.
Lifting it is kind of not a steady date, so that it's getting moved. It wasn't as big of an event that we were originally planning for that, which is rather dependent on strikes and stuff. So we do want to have that big event and we plan on a different milestone maybe.
Commissioning.
Yeah.
So we will have a big community event, probably at the commissioning or sometime around there as we do this. So we make sure we invite the community out and have a barbecue, give out some hot dogs, have some ice cream, have a good time. And we'll see. We'll put some money towards that. I know that we'll bend the arm of our partner SEMA Plus on this and see if they can help us in having that party. Because I think that we need to have that kind of celebration of this water tower that's been talked about and well, for a long, long time. And Mr. Craven, I think you know how long it's been talked about. Yeah, it's been a very long time. Mr. Martina.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to add, in case council's not aware, we do have a go-to camera that's set up on site. So there's been pictures being taken right from the inception of the project. So at the end, we will have a slideshow showing the progress, of the 6 or 8 months in the matter of a few minutes, and you'll see the construction of the tower.
Well, thank you, Mr. Martina. That's something that we did talk about early on. I'm glad that we have that go-to camera there, that we are able to go back and make that video to music and make it dance or something creative. Anything else for other business? And as I stated just a little earlier, I was down in Regina, and I've now been acclaimed to the board of FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities. First meeting is going to be in September. First board meeting, that is. There are other committees and part that I'll be on. So there might be some times where I'm not available. And Mr. Martin might have to step in. I know the September council meeting, right now there's tentatively September 13th, I believe there's tentatively a meeting for me that I won't be present for here, that I have to go there. So Councillor Martin will step in as deputy mayor. And might be a few more times of that, but I'm really happy that I'm going to be on this board. And I think it's going to be great for Mapleton as well as the county, and to work towards helping small communities like ours right across Canada. But certainly to get into the meetings with the federal ministers. I know we see a lot of provincial ministers. We don't get to see the federal ones, but this will give an opportunity for me to get in front of the federal ministers and talk about Mapleton and what we need here. Thank you. Anything else further then? We already had our closed session, and that closed session, I'm going to report out on that. The council instructed the CAO to further advance alternative options for moving forward with filling our vacant CBO position. So that's what we talked about in our closed session that we had at 6:30 p.m. And right now we'll go to the confirmatory bylaw. Moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Martin, that bylaw number 2022-040 being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Mapleton be hereby ready first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with a corporate seal. All those in favor? That's carried. And then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for the adjournment. It is 9:00 p.m.